February 14, 1943, 18,000 feet above Bougainville in the Solomon Islands. A new chapter in air warfare quietly opened. The Imperial Japanese Navy's flyers, still confident from 2 years of victories, scanned the sky for familiar adversaries. Wildcats, P-40s, maybe the occasional P-38. Instead, they glimpsed dark blue silhouettes unlike anything they'd fought before. The F-6F Hellcat, Grumman's rugged new carrier fighter, had arrived. Its broad wings and powerful Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine marked a subtle but decisive turning point. Within months, the Hellcat would sweep the Pacific skies clean, and on that Valentine's Day above Bougainville, Japanese airmen unknowingly faced the fighter that would end their dominance. The Hellcat's birth was a direct response to bitter lessons from the early Pacific War. In 1942, the nimble Mitsubishi A6M0 had humiliated Allied fighters across the Philippines, Malaya, and the South Pacific. Wildcats and Buffaloes simply could not match the Zero's agility or climb rate. At Midway, even victory had been costly, and the U.S. Navy's Bureau of Aeronautics knew it needed something tougher, faster, and deadlier. Grumman Aircraft, led by Leroy Grumman and engineer Bill Schwendler, answered the call. They studied captured Zeros, analyzed combat reports, and asked frontline pilots exactly what they needed. The result was a bigger, stronger fighter built for survivability and firepower, not for delicate dogfighting. The F-6F looked ungainly compared to the sleek Zero, but that was deceptive. Its R2800 double Wasp engine produced over 2,000 horsepower, nearly double the Zero's output. The airframe was rugged, with armor plate for the pilot and self-sealing fuel tanks to prevent catastrophic fires. It carried 6.50 caliber Browning machine guns, each with 400 rounds, capable of shredding bombers and fighters alike. While it could not outturn a Zero at low speed, it could dive faster, climb with authority, and, critically, absorb punishment that would destroy lighter Japanese planes. The Bougainville engagement was modest. Several Hellcats escorting bombers encountered a formation of Zeros, but the results shocked Japanese commanders. 2 Zeros were shot down for no Hellcat losses. More importantly, the pilots reported that their opponents could not gain an advantage in vertical maneuvers. The Hellcat's dive speed and roll rate gave it an edge that the Zero could not counter. The encounter was a warning sign, though few recognized it at the time. By the summer of 1943, the Hellcat was entering squadron service across the Pacific. At the Battle of the Philippine Sea in June 1944, nicknamed the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, Hellcats would destroy over 300 Japanese aircraft in a single day, cementing their reputation. But to understand how they reached that level of dominance, we need to explore the months of grinding combat, the tactics the U.S. Navy refined, and the industrial power that kept the carrier deck stocked with fighters. As the spring of 1943 unfolded, the Solomons campaign became the proving ground for Grumman's new fighter. Carrier groups rotating through the region began to swap their older Wildcats for Hellcats. Pilots who had survived brutal encounters in outdated planes immediately sensed the difference. Lieutenant Alex Vrachulator recalled that the Hellcat felt like climbing into a heavyweight boxer's body. Suddenly you could take a punch and throw a harder one back. On combat air patrol over New Georgia, a section of Hellcats intercepted a formation of Betty bombers with Zero escorts. The Wildcats of 1942 would have struggled. The Hellcats tore through the bombers, shrugging off return fire. Reports of heavily damaged F-6Fs returning safely to base multiplied. Ground crews marveled at bullet holes stitched through wings and fuselage, only to see the aircraft ready to fly again after minimal repair. Survivability became the Hellcat's trademark. It could absorb punishment that doomed lighter Japanese fighters. By late 1943, the U.S. Navy refined tactics that played to the Hellcat's strengths. The old advice to never turn with a Zero became doctrine. Instead, Hellcat pilots executed slashing attacks, diving from altitude, firing a burst, and climbing away, using their superior speed in a dive and rugged construction to avoid close-in turning fights. This boom-and-zoom approach, first formalized with P-40s in China, now reached its peak in the Pacific. Squadron leaders drilled their men to fight as teams, two plane sections where the wingman protected the leader's tail, a discipline often lacking in Japanese formations by 1944. The results were dramatic. At Tarawa in November 1943, Hellcats flying from USS Essex and USS Bunker Hill dominated the skies, downing Japanese aircraft while protecting amphibious landings. In early 1944, during the Marshall's Campaign, Hellcats swept enemy airfields clean in pre-invasion strikes. Pilots discovered that the F-6F was not only a superior fighter but also a versatile fighter-bomber, capable of carrying bombs and rockets for ground attack. Perhaps the defining moment came at the Battle of the Philippine Sea in June 1944. Japanese carrier aviation, rebuilt after Midway but weakened by pilot attrition, launched hundreds of aircraft against the American fleet. Hellcats intercepted them at long range, guided by superior radar direction from American ships. The sky over the Marianas became a slaughter. U.S. pilots downed more than 300 Japanese aircraft in one day, so many that one pilot joked, "It was just like a turkey shoot." The name stuck, the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. The victory broke the back of Japanese naval aviation. Yet the Hellcats' dominance wasn't just about technology. It was about training and industry. By 1944, U.S. pilot training programs delivered hundreds of hours of flight time and gunnery practice. Japanese pilots, by contrast, were often rushed into combat with minimal preparation. American factories, untouched by bombing and rich in resources, produced more than 12,000 Hellcats by war's end. Carriers like USS Enterprise and USS Lexington always had fresh aircraft and replacements, while Japan's dwindling resources made every loss irreplaceable. As the war moved closer to Japan, the Hellcat proved its versatility again. Over the Philippines, Formosa, and Iwo Jima, F-6FS strafed airfields, bombed shipping, and escorted bombers. They also faced a new threat: kamikaze attacks. Though the suicide pilots sometimes slipped through, Hellcats shot down hundreds before they could strike American ships. One Navy after-action report noted that the F-6F had become the shield and sword of the fleet. Individual stories illustrate the aircraft's reputation. On June 19, 1944, Lieutenant Alexander Vrachud destroyed 6 Japanese dive bombers in 8 minutes, one of the highest single mission tallies of the war. His Hellcat was hit by debris but returned safely to the carrier. Another pilot, Ensign Fred Orr, described diving through anti-aircraft fire to attack a Japanese cruiser. The Hellcat just kept flying, even after taking hits that would have finished a Wildcat or a Zero. By early 1945, Japanese pilots who once scoffed at the new fighter now dreaded its appearance. Veterans whispered warnings to rookies: "If you see a Hellcat, don't engage." Even the arrival of advanced Japanese aircraft like the Kawanishi N-1K or Ki-84 Frank could not shift the balance. The Hellcat's combination of firepower, armor, and numbers was too much. The Hellcat's contribution wasn't limited to aerial victories. As the Allies invaded the Philippines and later Okinawa, F-6FS provided close air support, destroying tanks, trucks, and gun emplacements with bombs and rockets. Their ability to operate from carriers allowed them to strike targets far beyond land-based airfields. Many Marines on the ground remembered the reassuring growl of the double Wasp overhead as synonymous with survival. When Japan launched Operation Tengo in April 1945, sending the battleship Yamato on a suicide mission, Hellcats escorted the strike groups that sank the massive ship. The aircraft's dominance extended even to night fighting. Specialized F-6F-5N variants equipped with radar-hunted Japanese planes in the dark, denying them any sanctuary. By the time of Japan's surrender in August 1945, Hellcats had destroyed more than 5,100 enemy aircraft in the air, over half of all U.S. Navy kills in the Pacific, at a kill ratio of 19-1. It was, by any measure, the most successful naval fighter of the war. In the post-war years, many Hellcats were retired or sold off, but their legacy endured. Former Japanese pilots admitted that after 1943, They felt the balance of the air war slipping away. American pilots credited the aircraft with giving them the confidence to press the attack and survive. Aviation historians today still regard the Hellcat as a masterpiece of practical combat design. Not elegant or glamorous, but devastatingly effective. The story of February 14, 1943, is therefore more than just the debut of a new fighter. It marks the beginning of the end for Japanese air power in the Pacific. From Bougainville